So let me see here. What I was gonna do though, I was gonna take some notes because I know that this is what I kind of got about you guys and from some of the opponents that have played against you already. That probably your first go around together, and a lot of people just guess you guys were friends, and I mean that makes a lot of sense. I don't know if that's accurate though. Is that
That's accurate.
okay? Cool, cool. So how is everything so far for you guys?
Well, I noticed that there's at least two levels of tiers above us of like better players. It's like way better. It's interesting to get schooled so badly so quickly every game.
Yeah, I think before we even talk about just whatever questions you got, I think that the main thing is number one, if you love the game, you're in a great community. Now, regardless of how your performance is right now, I wouldn't put so much weight into it because I can give you like history and backstory of a lot of the guys in your division.
Yeah, no, we're not really. We're still having fun. It's
Good,
just
good.
it's
Question mark? Fun
we're not
question.
we're not we're not we're not we're not thinking of like quitting or anything. But
Okay, good.
it's uh it's fun. It's actually I like it to see that there's a next level of like gameplay that we can reach instead of we usually just dick around, but now it's like you gotta actually try.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, with that, it does come with repetition. And actually, when you ask that question of, and thanks for kind of indirectly like asking it, but I was like, man, this is kind of a loaded question for a lot of reasons. So before I asked, yeah, so I don't know if you guys knew, but the question he asked was like, how many times a week should we practice? It started off with that, and I was like, you know what, this might lead to more questions. So thanks for being open to like talking to me and just hearing whatnot. So just to give you a backstory, real quick, just so you know where I'm coming from. Again, I'm not ranked super high, and I'll kind of get some idea of where you guys are in a second. But I'm like ranked gold. I think the highest I've ever been is plat personally, but for league play, we've done quite a bit in this division. I think we kind of bounce around between the third tier, which I guess is C, but there's actually higher than NGS. I don't know if you guys looked it up. There's like a I don't even know. The Storm is the highest, which is actually where our current coach is from. He was from the winning
Oh wow.
team last season. Our team ourselves, we usually make playoffs every season in this division, and then also we were the champions last season for this division, but we lost, and then we were like, crap, we were at the top of the West, but we feel like we got killed in the finals. So then we kind of looked for better
Mm.
guidance, and it just kind of worked out that the guy happened to be like super high up, right? So so basically in the league in this division environment, it's so awesome because before I found this, like in Heroes Lounge, I don't know if you guys have heard of that, but it's another league that kind of coincides with this one. Before I found that, like I thought Storm League was the highest level of play that I'd ever experienced, and holy crap, was I so excited to find
Yeah.
out there was a more coordinated environment with a lot of like non-trolls, right? So excited.
Oh my god,
So
I'm just looking at my team comp. What are you guys doing? Two healers? Oh my god.
well, I mean, anything can work. It just kind of depends. So this is what I
Yeah.
wanted to do. Like, I just wanted to kind of keep an open forum and just kind of see where it goes from there.
Okay.
And I think I just wanted to at least make sure you guys had the general stuff so you eventually can
Well,
build towards that together.
yeah.
Go ahead.
So we've got one guy who like watches a lot, and he's not here tonight, but he's like, you got to go get the camp at this time. It's like we've noticed that yes, that is important.
Okay.
uh, but the thing that I've noticed most recently is we just get killed in those team fights, and I'm just curious, like, do you guys have a kill order, or is it like very specific, like one person always engages and the rest are always ready?
Yeah,
Or
for the most part, but there's a lot going on, and a lot of this, since it's going to be reflective, and if you guys, some of you guys are distracted, then it might be a little hard to follow. But what I wanted to do too is I kind of wanted to get a well, not really backstory, but just kind of like oh, okay, let me just ask this. So, how do I pronounce your name? Is it Domineer or
denominator? It's
Denominator? Okay, good. So, how often do you play every week, just for the heck of it?
uh, well, now with COVID, it's been a lot more. Probably, probably 3 nights, 4 nights a week.
Okay,
Play
so
for.
so you got 3 to 4. How many hours
Oh
every
God, too
time?
many. Probably three times each. Probably 12, 10 to 12 a week. Like a
Okay,
week, yeah, total.
okay. So maybe like 3 or 4 in one sitting, 3 or 4 hours in one sitting.
He's been
Uh,
playing a lot more lately
oh,
since we
we
were
got
started getting stomped in league.
Oh,
yes.
got it.
Oh, I think we said all right. Well,
And what is the mode that you usually play when you play?
we used to not play Storm League at all. We started only because mostly the reason we're in Division 3 is because none of us had any Storm League records, so they just put us
Oh,
there.
interesting. Okay, it's not a
They
bad.
didn't know.
Yeah, it's not.
Yeah,
It's not a bad thing. I think that was kind of what I've been hearing that they just misplaced you, which happens.
yeah,
And just to be all in fairness, there's. I mean, if you go through the divisions, like this one is like there's a lot of prep. It's like you can get away with skill to do well in this in our current division, but like to do really well, it's like there's just a lot that goes on. Like Division B is like even crazier, and it just keeps creating crazier the higher and higher you go. A lot of people argue it's less fun the higher you get, but now is this all of you guys or just you that practices as much?
Uh, well, I think we all play Friday nights usually 2-3 nights a week we play. The other guys play usually a couple hours only. I
Okay.
wouldn't say practice. It's more. I still enjoy it. I usually have a couple people I play with.
Don't kid yourself, Rano. We mostly get drunk and play. Don't kid
There you
yourself.
go.
We do. Oh yeah, that is true. I forgot to mention that.
Okay, that's good. That's probably a lot of the enjoyment there. Wait, you said you just recently started Storm League. What did you guys play normally? Like quick match, mini
Just quick
round?
match. It was just all quick match, pretty much.
Okay, and then when you say we, who is the we?
Oh, the whole group.
That's here
We
right
all
now.
pretty much, yeah.
Okay, so that's four, and then even the guy that does the watches all the stuff.
Yeah, plus our
Yeah,
team captain.
Oh,
yeah,
he's the guy. Okay, and he could make the night.
Yeah, and he's also
yeah.
not very good. So
Oh,
that's that.
is that like a slight because you know him, or is that like?
It's all of
Both.
the above. All of
Oh,
the above.
To be
okay.
honest, none of us are very good. So.
Okay. So first off, before you decide what you guys are practicing, because here's the thing, like it could ease, because I don't know if you guys played other games, whether it was like World of Warcraft or just other games together, but it can easily turn from fun to like either super fun or it could turn into like, oh God, this feels like a job, right?
Well, so we're definitely not doing that. That's
Okay.
never.
All right,
If we
good.
ever start doing that, we'll
It
just
doesn't. It
stop.
doesn't.
Okay,
It doesn't
okay.
feel like a job, but sometimes I'm like, fuck, these guys are assholes. God.
Okay.
And everyone feels that way at times, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think the main thing is with your goals, as long as everyone, like I mean everyone, even down to your sub, if because I saw you guys had six on your
Yeah.
squad, I even down to there, as long as everyone is on the same page as what your goals are. Now, whatever that is, whether it's like
Yeah.
give the team that you're playing the hardest time ever to get the win, or whether it's to get wins, or whether it's to make playoffs, whether it's win championships, or hell, just to have fun and make it through the season without killing each other. I don't know, maybe something like that. Whatever your goal is, you got to make sure that everyone's on the same page because that will determine everything else after that. So, out of curiosity, it sounds like it's more have fun, but it might have sounded like, hey, there's an advanced league. I wonder how we do type thing. Is it kind of how it evolved, or what do you think?
That's a good question. I don't know. What do you think, Pete?
Well, it's
I miss-
Guillaume noticed it originally. He just wanted to see what playing competitively was like. So
Okay.
he's probably the most he followed HGS back in the day.
That's your captain.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he still
he's
follows.
he's very into it. And we are too. We have fun. I think he's probably the most serious, not the most skillful, but the most serious about it.
Okay.
And critical.
And critical. He probably has the least fun actually
Oh,
too.
no. Okay, so I guess did you guys ever play World of Warcraft? I don't know.
No,
I didn't.
I did. Okay, so because
I,
there's
I, only, I only logged about 350 hours. I mean,
Okay.
days.
Oh,
Days.
okay,
Days.
only just a little bit. Okay, so did you? So who was that? Was that Baloney Rapper or?
Yeah, man, that's me.
All right, cool. So when you played, like, what was your playing experience? Did you like hardcore raid? Did you like just play casually
No,
or?
I played with my brother quite a bit. That was
Okay,
it.
but you never did any raids or anything like that.
Yeah, I did some 40-man raids and some 20-man raids and stuff
Oh,
like that, but
cool.
I never really had a lot of time for that.
Okay.
He was in a guild who played, and they got me in sometimes, and I fucked it up, and then I stopped doing that. So.
Right. Awesome. Yeah. So the reason I was asked is because a lot of times in World of Warcraft, there's like a lot of different types of raiders in a sense, right? Or players even. There's some people that just did the quests, did the dailies, some people that actually raided a little bit, but didn't raid that much, not very serious. That's maybe the category you fit in below me, which was like a casual raider, if that. And then sometimes you had more hardcore rating, right? And they were all about like all of the nuances of everything, and then they had some crazy regiment of like 5 days a week and blah blah blah, right? And there's all these extremes. Same thing with this game. Now the thing is that I mean, if your captain, as an example, I mean, I don't know. You could be like, this guy told you you suck. No, that's not what I'm saying at all. But basically, if he has expectations of like high expectations, he also has to be realistic with, how often and how serious you guys are. But then also that's going to deter you as a group, right? Like
I, I
obviously, if
think
everyone's about fun and he's not, then that's going to be a discrepancy long term. I'm just
I,
noticing. Go
it
ahead.
is a little bit.
Okay.
But it's we get by. It's not the
Okay.
worst. We kind of
Okay.
used to it nowadays.
Okay.
Most-
Is he the um is he like the shot caller as well or
Uh, some of the time he knows he knows
the strats?
he knows the strats and they're correct, but just
That role is always up for grabs. The shot.
yeah.
Okay. Okay. Now with that, like I mean I guess if you haven't played Storm Lake, have you guys you said you doing recently, like where are you guys at like rank wise, just to give me an idea?
Well, some of us started in gold 5 and are now in bronze,
Okay.
right, Lloyd?
Okay. Bronze. I doesn't don't they start right away with your new account at bronze or silver or something?
It's random. I don't know.
And what level is your captain? Is he also the same with you?
I think he's bronze-ish. I'm not sure, to be
Okay,
honest.
okay. So going back to your initial question of way back before we even started talking was like how many nights a week do you practice? So okay, so you got to think of how you think about it in terms of practice, right? So if you practice as five, and which is the interesting dynamic because there's six of you, if you practice as five, that should count as practice together. Now, however many nights a week, if you can get that, would be fantastic because you're only
Right.
going to be as strong as your weakest player, and then also you have to
Oh
realize,
shit.
yeah. So really, like if there's someone that's bronze five and you have someone that's bronze ones as an example, you're only going to be as strong as the weakest one. Now,
Yeah,
there's some
we have noticed that it all takes is one mistake in these divisions and it's like
yeah.
it's game over
Yeah,
pretty much.
and the thing is with our division, like there really isn't. I mean, everyone makes mistakes. They just make less of them the higher you get up. That's all.
Yeah.
So, and here's the thing, like, let's say like the season still pans out because we're like kind of almost halfway through the season. Let's say your current season falls, out and gosh, you maybe get a win or two or something like that. That'd be fantastic actually from where you guys are right now. But basically, let's say like you don't win anything, whatever. Worst case scenario, what happens is you just move down a division and you go to Division D. So you play it out there, whatever. And I think there's a Division E too. So as long as you guys are enjoying yourselves, I mean, eventually you'll balance out and find a place. That's one thing
I
to
think
keep in mind.
so.
Now, when you guys practice though, it's the expectations can't be more unrealistic than the time that you put in, right? You cannot replicate the time you spend as a five-man unit together. You can't. Okay, so if the expectation is, as an example, the guy that has the highest aspirations for your team, if he wants you guys to get in the playoffs, but you guys don't practice together as a team during the week, that's not realistic. Now, you can
Right.
win games, like I don't know if you can win it in this
Right.
division, but you can win league games like doing that, and teams have done that. But a lot of times that means they're going to rely on their skill to get them there with the lack of practice, right?
Yeah, and I think we do have like pretty reasonable individual skills, to be honest.
Okay,
We
okay,
played enough, but the problem is our team engages are definitely a problem.
okay,
I've noticed that, and also our drafting is questionable.
okay.
We have personal preferences to play some heroes which are probably not as strong as
Not
we'd like.
synergistic or
Or yeah, just like individual heroes. We have a couple people who play Butcher, but we notice that nobody plays them. It's, or things or Illidan or somebody like that.
Yeah, it's interesting too because like what you could get away with in like Storm League
Yeah,
or Quick Match or whatever, like obviously it is like you said at the beginning. It feels like two steps ahead in like a league thing, and it is because a lot of the guys are super researched on the opposing teams. They're super researched on like wombo combos. They're super researched on like synergistic qualities, but they still get it wrong at this level too, at Division C and lower. They still get those things wrong. So it's
right.
not like they just don't get it wrong as often, Right. So, I mean, in theory, you could actually make any combination work, right? If you got a couple butcher players, great, but you got to make sure you set them up with that if
Right.
that's your thing, right? But then you also have to know who your counters are too. And obviously, there's a ton. There's like different heroes that thrive better on different maps. There's certain heroes that counter other heroes. Like for example, anything with a blind would kind of screw Butcher over
Well,
essentially,
that's what one
right?
thing we've been noticing and trying to do is like if we're gonna choose Butcher, he should be like last choice, right?
100% because for the Butcher example, there's a lot of ways to counter him, and if you do it early in the draft,
Yeah.
then you're just giving a lot of ways to make it not work. Right. So what's awesome about Butcher though, he can be great as a follow-up stun with his charge, not necessarily best with the engage because it's very telegraphed, right?
Right. So okay.
And then
So
also
one
he
thing.
doesn't become
Yeah.
empowered until he gets his 200 meat.
Do you
So
guys in a group fight do you sometimes have somebody who kind of waits and doesn't go in the initial engage and kind of sneaks in from the side? Is that some?
sometimes you'll have flankers. A lot of times you'll have that as the beefier heroes or guys that can, beat up the backline pretty quick. But at the same time, it's like you have to have some kind of communication, meaning like
Right. Yeah.
depending on how you do that. So again, if you have a lot of skill, you can get away with it. However, at this level, if you guys don't focus your targets and know exactly who you're focusing, it's not going to go well
Right.
fight-wise, right? So here's the thing, like if, for example, let's say your tank, I don't know who your tank player is. Who is your tank player, out of curiosity?
Lloyd.
Lloyd. Okay, so
What?
and what do
Well,
you normally
this
play,
game.
Lloyd? Or what does Lloyd
I
do?
would say our tank rotates a lot.
Yeah, we don't
no,
all.
Yeah, no, I play Murden, Uther, Anubarak.
Okay. Okay. So here's the thing. So a lot of times, and you guys can designate, like any of these things, you can designate a responsibility, but just also be flexible and realistic with what's realistic with everyone else. So for example, if the tank is saying, "Hey, I'm looking at, I don't know, like Li Ming in the back." Well, let's actually pick someone that's not as mobile. Let's say Jane in the back, right? So I'm looking at Jane in the back, right? So depending on the character he is, it could kind of dictate his engage, which will then dictate the follow-up, right? Because the tank is only as good as the follow-up if it's there. However, if the tank is way out of position, the follow-up might not have enough ground to cut, right? So then you got to make characters involved with the play style. So there's a lot of coordination that goes on. Now there's other
Right.
things you can do, like maybe you can set up bush ganks. May have been done to you a few times already. I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That's
They're
something we've
really,
noticed.
yeah, they do it a lot. And especially like, you'll learn like not to face check so often. Do you guys know what that is?
Yep.
Yes, we've
Yeah,
been
you
we've
get
run into
punished.
that.
Demonstrate it.
You get completely punished, right? So, and the thing is ideally for a tank though, the most valuable spot for a tank is not actually to be in front, but more like engaging from like blind spots, like whether it's from the shadows or whether it's from places where you don't see them coming. But if they're out in the middle of a lane, there's all these minions. You know where the tank is going, right?
Yeah.
But the tank is most effective at this level if you don't know where the heck he is. If he's off the map completely, then people have to be aware because we're like, well, we don't see him on the map. Like, where the heck is he? Is it the top lane? Is it the bottom lane? Is it the middle lane? We don't know, right? So, but if he's in lane soaking experience, it's like, okay, tank is top lane, we can engage because they don't have a tank. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Okay. So if they don't have a tank, essentially, you should always engage. Is that the?
Not
Oh god.
necessarily. It's a lot of counting, right? Like a lot of times, ideally, in every ideal situation, you either want to attack when you're up a talent tier, not necessarily when you're up levels. You gotta do the math a little bit if they're in the same talent tier, or if you have advantages like number advantages versus man, or if you have like ultimate advantages or whatever. Basically, every tier that you do, that's going to give you an advantage over the other opponent. Now, the way the game is designed, if they get a kill and they're behind, then it's going to give them a lot of experience, so they have a catch-up mechanic, right? So,
Right.
so it's like, and the thing is every time you engage, Lloyd, every time you engage, it has to be for a purpose. It can't just be to A rab it
You've
and
just
hit.
Right.
described it perfectly.
Yeah, no, that's something we still fall into that. Like, yeah, great, awesome. We're champions last year. We didn't win the thing, but we still do that from time to time, even as how long we've been playing. We've been playing a while. So, and a lot of that is like habits that we've learned from the other game modes, right? Like the hardest thing sometimes is to unwork things that we've done to get to where we are. So if you guys are used to playing a certain way in QM or a certain way in ARAM, it's like all of those bad habits you don't know they were bad habits until later. Does that make
Right.
sense? So
Yeah.
that's got to be like a time thing and kind of like a mental like, oh, this isn't what I do. So for example, an ideal tank is always scouting and basically engaging at optimum times, like when teams aren't expecting it, right? So for example, I don't know if you guys play Diablo, but he's a great character in Engage, but he's terrible to peel for the most part. For example, Murden's tough to an extent because if obviously if you use your E to engage, then you're kind of effed, right? Because you can't get out if something goes
Yeah.
bad. But then also he's kind of hard to peel because it's a skill shot for a
Right.
few. So you said Uther. Uther's great. He's probably, one of the ideal tanks, even though he's not technically a tank. He just has the lower health
Hmm.
pool. He's great because he just has the right click, and then obviously you spec into his 10, then he has another one. You have Benediction, you have another stun, right? So there's a lot of things with Uther, but the thing that sucks is if you telegraph where he's from, then they're not going to get close to you, or they'll
So
just jump
who's
out.
Right.
so who's the engager then if it's not the tank?
Well, it
Like
depends. Like it still can be the tank, but then you also have to think there's got to be a peeler. So usually it's the off lane, but it depends on your specs. So the off lane is usually the solo lane, which usually is like a meaty like bruiser, usually. So if you have only one front line, as an example, he can't do both well. He can do one or the other. You got to decide. So you
okay.
got to decide if you're an all-in team and just be like, all right, we're all in. Everyone throw everything, and whoever dies, and so at the end, that's what happens. Or that you play super defensive. Now, here's the thing: whatever your play styles are now, you probably want to learn to play with those strengths instead of try to compensate for your weaknesses. Just because you'll probably thrive better if you kind of amplify your strengths. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. Yep.
Yeah. So if like your tank is super divey, then my goodness, you got to have a backline that can survive by themselves, or kite, or be super mobile, or dive in
We,
with
we
them.
have we have definitely noticed that the backline's generally not protected, but that's just the way we play. I'm not
Yeah.
criticizing. It's just the way
No,
we play.
no, and that's fine. Like we've all like I remember when we were there, like, and we still struggle from time to time.
Yeah, like I normally play KT in quick match and I can do great. Normally, I'm not even going to play him anymore because there's just no chance
That's
of
because you're not very
survival.
good with him, Frano, though. To be fair.
Hmm. To be fair,
Frano,
Frano, have you learned not to take
ask,
his quest if you ever play him?
ask the question what the strategy is too when they have like two
I'm here.
backline DPS that we
Go
can
for
never
it.
get to. What's the strat there?
yeah. What do
Well,
we do? Like, oh, I guess did you hear
so
that question?
yeah, I
Yeah.
did. I
Okay.
did. So it's interesting. So for example, backliners, just I
Like
guess,
Chromie
yeah,
usually is.
Chromie or Ming or something like that. Sometimes when it's hard like that, when they're doing like a poke comp, so there's different types of strategies, and over time you guys will understand which characters are good at others, right? So either number one, you gotta make a team that does it, like everyone is on the same page, which is a dive comp is essentially what you could do, or you get a front to back comp to burn their front line so they don't have a front line. Does that make sense? So with kill targets, even though let's say the DPS might be more ideal or a healer might be more ideal, but if their positioning is good and you can never get to them, then
Yeah.
don't necessarily force it, but you got to figure out a way to still take the advantage. So, who's their tank? Is it Muradin? Is it Joe? Like,
Murden or well, we've been trying. Yeah, Murden, Joe, or Diablo are three tanks that we often play.
okay, okay. So, for example, whatever their tank is, if they're kind of pokey, then maybe your strategy is just to everyone hit the tank until he's dead. Or basically he weans off and he has no health, right? So it just kind of depends. Like sometimes you'll just never get them the whole game because that's the kind of character they are, and maybe you don't have characters that can ever, cut the pace to them, right? Like
Right.
for example, some good characters that can dive on the backline is a Diablo. However, if Diablo dives into the backline, he's deep in the backline, and the rest of his team is way behind. Because the way Diablo's mechanic works, right, is like depending if he pushes forward, he really pushes forward, right?
Right.
Right, and
Yeah.
then unless you have characters that can keep that pace, then he's going to go down pretty quick because everyone just focuses on him on the other team. Now, ideally, though, if somehow Diablo can swing one of the targets back towards you, then you have a better shot to kill that target, Right. So some other things like Kerrigan's a good diver, Zeratul's a good diver, Trace
What
is a
about
good diver. Go ahead.
I've been playing Phoenix Super Warp Warfare Phoenix. Is that a good idea? It
It
seems
can
to be working.
it can. So um, a lot of times mobile characters are pretty awesome, and usually a lot of the counter to that you've got a couple uh, like tanks out of the top of my head. Like Diablo's actually counter to mobile heroes. So because he has a point click Q, right? He can like
Yeah.
get to him pretty quickly, and also Varian too, Varian taunt, um, as an example. Oh, also
Yeah, that's
I was thinking for Lloyd, if you're playing Uther or Garrosh, it's kind of the same idea. Ideally, to engage better, if you're having a hard time, is always
Hmm.
be mounted to
Right.
engage, right? And you always want to engage from from cover or whatever, right? So you want to be hidden, you want to be on a horse, and then you want to say, "I'm going for this target." Go in on your horse, hit him with the stun, so you can keep him
right.
out. So anyway,
Right.
um, so does that kind of answer your question, Baloney? I think that's what you asked.
I guess so.
Yeah, it's like you either have characters that can chase them or get to them, or you just have to
If
switch your
I,
target and just burn the front line, so they don't have them.
I, yeah,
Right.
which is why we pretty much rely on a Tychus, but Tychus is a regular ban, so
Got it. Well, yeah, Tychus is good. I mean, trying to think. Do you guys play Greymane out of curiosity?
We do. It's our captain, and I don't think he's very good with him.
he thinks he's really good, but he's not.
Okay.
But we also don't keep him alive. Like we don't play the comp to support Greymane very well. To be
Okay.
fair.
To
Okay.
be fair.
And I mean, and technically there are other characters that can arguably do the same job better. I think I'm just thinking of guys that can cut the tank pretty quickly. Because I mean, Raynor can kind of do it slowly. If he goes to level one and he
Yeah.
has like things to kind of amplify that. Basically, like hero killer targets. Let's see. I mean, bursty characters can probably do that fairly well. Jaina's pretty good. Can be good at it depending on the tank. I mean, Greymane's great if he has the cursed bullet and hits it, right?
Yeah.
Ideally, if he's using the cursed bullet before the target's locked down, though, then it's on a skill shot, and the
Yeah.
arrow's really like skinny, so it can be a little bit tough sometimes with him. But just kind of think about, yeah, Tychus is great, but yeah, that's the first ban that sucks. And actually, it's kind of Tychus's meta anyway. He's just kind
Oh,
of, because I mean, if you think about it, because of the way he's structured, he can like tear down high hero health pools super quickly with D, right? With the
yeah.
what's that level? Is it level 1 or level 4? I can't remember. The one that shreds him from like 100 to
The mi-
25 like in 2 or
the
3 seconds.
minigun thing. Yeah. I don't remember.
It's
I
like
don't
It's
play him.
4.
it's like the bigger
Or
they are or something. A
yeah.
lot of people like
Yeah,
doing that.
it's level 4.
Yeah, so that can shred him pretty quick. It's not going to finish him. So the thing, if you pair Tychus or you have Tychus, you have to have someone also that can kind of finish too. So I mean, if you think about the context, you guys may have heard this before, but a lot of times you'll have sustained damage, which is constant damage, and then
Yeah.
then you'll have burst characters. So
Yeah.
if you do double sustain, it's because you're trying to just keep them away and you're trying to protect a point. But usually you want to pair them together, ideally, because you
Oh,
always
nice.
need some kind of a finisher. Because there's nothing more frustrating to get like the whole team super low and not being able to kill anybody.
Yeah.
Right, so you need someone to actually finish those
That is
things.
something we saw. We've a few times.
Yeah. So good questions. What other questions you got?
Um.
How badly
Let's
are you
see.
going to stomp us on Wednesday?
No, this is a more important question. Do you want me to send you the replay? Because I just fucking boned these guys with a frost round.
You did. You did a good job.
How I don't know how we'll do, honestly. I think the thing is that you guys have nowhere to go from like it's like seriously. No, it's
That's
funny.
what I keep telling my guys too. It's like we can't do any worse than last
It's funny
time.
because I kid you not, 3 weeks ago, I think we were actually last for like a split moment, right? And
That's before we played and you played.
I told our guys, I was like, guys, we got nowhere to go. We're kind of last place right now. He's like, we haven't even played. I was like, I don't care. We're last place right now. We got to pick this up anyway.
Well,
But
how important is macroing? Like, I
it's huge.
feel like
It's
even
it's
before.
it's pretty huge. Like here's the thing. Like okay, so there's two ways to think about it. Like if your coordination with your team fighting is going to take time, you technically can beat a lot of teams by just macro alone, technically. Like it's huge, super huge important. In fact, it's almost like if you're a Division B team, it's like almost automatic. Your macro is pretty good. Like it's got to be pretty good, or you're not going to make it that
Right.
far. So I mean, I think of this. Whether you're in C again next, next season or even D or whatever.
Right.
I mean, even at the D level, their macro is still pretty good. Like I mean, I think E is probably arguably where maybe just a lot of fighting and they don't really care about much macro, but everyone's like
Right.
trying to get better. It's kind of insane. Like this is like the league comparison is very different from your ranking comparison. Like the bronze players, like whatever, they're like macro whatever, right? They don't macro whatever. I'm a ramming on the 3 lane map. I don't care. I mean that's pretty much what you're gonna experience anywhere from bronze to probably bottom gold. And
Right.
then once you kind of get to mid gold, it's like then they start paying attention. And then we have the encounters of like playing Smurf, so it kind of sucks anyway for for people that are like below plat and arguably even in plat. Anyway, I won't even go into
Why
that.
does anybody do that? That's another question.
Why do they
Why do
Smurf?
people? Yeah, I
I
don't
th-
get it.
well, if you think about the MOBAs, like this MOBA doesn't have as many people playing it, right? So you got League, you got like Dota 2, you have I know Smite, I don't know how many people are in it. There's one other that I'm missing that's pretty big too. But the thing is, as far as MOBAs, like we don't have as much of a pool of people. So the thing is, when they go higher up, I
Right,
mean,
I see.
and just so you know the skill level, there's a huge skill level difference between the rankings, and then when you get to like master, there's still even a huge skill level to grandmaster, and grandmasters like they wait forever for their games. So a lot of times,
Oh, I
yeah, a
see.
lot of them will stream, for a living.
Oh, I see.
So then they'll be like, hey,
Interesting.
yeah, and then they'll be like, hey, I'm gonna go to bronze to GM this season, and they do that a lot too. That's a lot of challenges they do. But
Interesting.
yeah, I
Uh,
think it's just a lot because there's not as many people playing at the higher levels, just because the pool of people isn't as big.
which
Because
is
they're
too
all,
bad because this game is way
oh,
better.
it's
Like
so fun, so
I
fun.
used to play Dota and it's like so slow. The pace
Yeah.
of it is ridiculously slow.
Oh yeah, this game is so much fun. Love it, absolutely love it. But yeah, macro is huge. Macro is huge, and there's a huge learning curve. There's like tons of maps on this game.
Yeah,
So
that's also true.
here's what I'd recommend for the rest of the season. Like try to just nail down like
Like one strat.
or just 2 to 3
Strat.
maps that you feel like you know the mechanics and
Right.
the timing really good. Right? Meaning like camp timings when they're available. And you
Right.
you can look this stuff up. I actually don't know this off the top of my head. And a lot of times the camp timings um for example, the cap timings, like you want to get them at the beginning at a certain time so they fall ideally before the objective lands. Ideally.
Right.
That's a best case scenario. Right. And sometimes if you do not get or you forget to get the camp but the objective's up, sometimes it's better just to leave the objective. Right? It just kind of depends on what you're
Yeah,
trying to accomplish.
I've noticed that sometimes the objective's not even worth it, especially if it's like one of 3 seeds or something. Sometimes just
Yeah, it depends. It depends. So ideally, the camp is you want to put it up so it's a distraction. I mean, all the camps, sieges, shaman camps, whatever,
yeah,
or night camps or whatever you call them, they're basically just so they can determine so the other team has to answer, right? So
yeah,
if you know that a camp's coming and they're not responding to it, as an example, then you can kind of hold, kind of do a dance of like baiting them or basically just making them stall until they have to decide, and then
yeah.
you
That's one thing I definitely noticed we should be doing, and other teams do. They don't do a hard engage if they've got like a camp pushing. They'll just
they just wait.
stall.
Yeah.
Yeah, they'll just wait, and we usually get impatient and jump in and die.
Cool. Well, as long as it's a coordinated jump in, then you might do better than not.
Well, it's usually not is the
Oh,
problem.
okay,
Like
okay.
one thing I've noticed is teams we play is like they have a variant taunt and everybody's ready and they use their abilities on the person taunted instantly. We're
Yeah,
usually like a bit behind, so we're not even actually within range when the variant taunt happens, and then
hmm.
it's too late.
Yeah, and that's the strength, right? Like anytime you have a pick composition, um, they ideally just always want to have the man advantage. So, Varian, Diablo, Garrosh, those are great examples of pick comps. So they're not going to be good long team fighters. In fact, that's bad for those characters.
Yeah,
They want to get people out of rotation. They want to get people when they're disadvantaged and keep an advantage, and that's how they operate. So essentially, they want people that are going to delete characters like right away. That's why you'll see them with high burst characters or things that just die right away. You're not going to see them
Yeah.
with like double sustain,
Yeah, we
melee
definitely
combo.
saw that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and another thing too is like even if you have those types of engagers, you follow up is huge for those types of comps too. Like follow up crowd controller CC.
The
yeah,
follow up is where we fall down
Yeah,
it
all the
that's
it
time.
is.
because
Yeah,
the thing is like sure the tank can engage, get him for like a second or two, but unless you can keep the target there for another 2 seconds, it's not going to die, right? So, for example, I know the tank also played Uther and a nub as an example, or whatever Diablo, but Uther's a great follow-up character if the healer plays it as an example, or Malfurion's a great follow-up character because they just have to determine what the tank's doing, and when they get a stun or whatever, they just throw down their E.
yeah, the root. Yeah,
Yeah, or Deckard could be a great follow-up character. Tyrande, which is a hard skill shot, is a great follow-up character. But basically, anything with a stun is a great follow-up. And obviously, KT as an example, or Kael'thas, he's a great.
yeah.
He's like one of the only range, I think the only range maybe that has a follow-up too. It's a skill shot, but there's a follow-up with a Z. Um,
Well,
but
Tyrande is one. She's ranged and she has the skill
yeah,
shot.
she's a healer,
Yeah,
but yeah, she does it. She has it. But it's a skill shot, right? So anytime you have like those skill shots are harder to land, but anything that's right clicky or whatever, it's just more guaranteed. So
So if we ever get into a situation, well, we will because we always do in a 4v5 because somebody is out of position and gets ganked. Do we just like never fight for the objective? Because it's pretty
so
much a lost cause almost all the time.
yeah, so this is where it gets a little tricky if you're always playing down. So ideally, in an ideal situation, you're never down, right? You're always up, and usually in this game, if you're up, you hit the talent tiers, you're always going to have the advantage, and you're going to win more likely than not if you're always up, right? The thing that's interesting though is because of the catch it mechanic, if you can get a kill, it like will catch you up or kill or two.
Oh,
That
what is that? I didn't even know that's a thing. So you get
yeah, it's
extra
like
XP?
it's like the higher you up, like the more you behind your team is, if you get a kill, it like tips it in your favor. Like you get a ton
Oh,
of
Bro,
XP.
really?
how
Yeah,
did you not know that?
I didn't know that.
that's
Oh.
okay. Like the I just so you
It
know,
swings the
I
XP.
yeah, I played like 3 league seasons not knowing that Falstad's second gust was essentially like game over. Like I don't know if you guys know the mechanics of that. Do you guys know the mechanics of
The
Falstad's
one
gust?
that like forever keeps gusting
Yeah,
forever.
so
The constant push.
yeah,
Yeah.
the constant push is freaking amazing, like late game, because at level 20, instead of a defensive like mechanic for the most part, it can be offensive, and if he gusts people into a wall, it's like, oh my god, you know what I mean? It's like, all right, it's
Right.
like ETC dance or whatever without any interrupts, and they're just sitting there like there forever, and you just throw a whole bunch of crap on them. But it's just for example, like I didn't know that for like a long time, so don't feel bad about not knowing the experience mechanic. Um, but basically, yeah, you just gotta. I don't know where I was going with this. Actually, where was I going with this, guys? What's I talking about?
Uh, I don't remember.
All right, maybe I answered the question. I have no idea.
The 4v5, whether you
Oh
should
yeah, yeah,
engage. That's what I mean.
yeah. So anytime that okay, so this is where, and this will take some time to think about. But anytime you're not going to win something, whether it's an objective or you're losing like a keep or fort or whatever, ideally the mentality you should have is like, what can we get for that? Okay,
Yeah. So like,
so
do we just go for camps or go for a keep? Like an
so yeah, you
opposite
got to
keep?
get something like
Yeah.
whether you can trade in the opposite point of the map. I'm like, oh crap, we're gonna lose bottom. It's already halfway. They're encroaching on it. We know that, but we're more near the top. Maybe we can push in the first wall or the part of the first wall, or maybe we can get the whole darn thing while they do it, right? Or maybe like, hey, the only thing we can grab is their shaman camp as an example. Then you get that. But you should
Right.
always be trying to get something so you can kind of still stay in the game. So
You know, we do that most of the time,
okay, good,
uh,
good, good.
but we
So
often still jump in anyway.
yeah, so if it's a 4v5, like ideally, yes, hold off until you're in a 5v5 situation until you just know you can't. Okay, so
Yeah.
there's going to be a point in the game where you're just like, well, crap, we're
Yeah.
checkmate unless we do something now. And sometimes you just have to roll the dice and like hope it goes in your favor, but know that that's your last chance and everybody is on
Yeah.
the same page. Like if it's not everyone's on the same page, then people like feel bad and point fingers or whatever. But as long as everyone's on the same page, like, hey, here's the last chance, we got to do something, whatever that is, then everyone just got to buy in and do it.
Right.
Right. So I think to answer your question is like pretty much hold up until like you just can't anymore, and try to trade.
That
If
is something we generally are bad at is the prolonged exchanges.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
like to
Like I
make
mean,
it.
for example, this could be a scenario that you guys run into quite often. So let's say, okay, crap, we lost a guy, 4v5, we're down. They're at an objective, but they're only showing four, but they have like 3 levels advantage. That means they're like talent tier or something, right? 17 to
Right.
14 or something. You're like, crap, we can't win this even in a 4v4. But what does the solo laner do? Probably trying to soak till 20, right? So see if you can
Yeah.
jump on that solo laner, get some experience, and like stop their experience gain, and maybe take something else in the process. Maybe kill the solo laner, maybe like take a camp or something like that that hasn't been taking. Maybe take the top something, just anything, right? Anything at that point to kind of
Yeah.
swing in your favor. Now, obviously that call is going to be different versus like, ah, crap. Well, the I forgot the thing. The boss mechanic on Infernal Stride is going to go in the bottom lane. The whole thing's pushed in. We have nothing
Yeah.
else to protect. We're kind of effed. We might as well just go in 3 levels down. They have 20. We have 17.
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah,
YOLO time, and yeah.
yeah. And sometimes the window is like so small. Like sometimes you have to wait for the boss to pass, try to jump people from the back line, everyone jumping from the back line, maybe wipe them, and then maybe have a shot to clear the boss in time. It might be
Well,
something
that's
that
something we
drastic.
never really do, but that's a good idea.
Yeah, but again, everyone's got to be on the same page, right? So that's where the shot caller comes in, and then whatever it is, like you just have to be all on the same page. And a lot of times, if everyone is doing exactly what needs to be done, even if it's a bad decision, so more often than not, it'll end up being better overall, even if you guys end up wiping because
Right.
you're all on the same page. And at the
Yeah.
same time, if it was just a bad call, at least that's something the shot caller can learn from.
So is that? Do you guys have just one dedicated shot color generally?
Well, we don't, and we're an odd team in that way because we have we kind of grew together. We kind of figured it out
Right.
as we got. So we have one primary, and then we have one that can technically override him.
Really?
And
So
we
how does
Yeah,
that
yeah.
work?
Like I said, our mechanic is not like traditional, and it takes a while to develop just 2 shot callers in that context. So it works out to the extent because the second one usually has more often the right calls than not. So just
Right.
over time, we've learned that okay, this guy has a better play of the game because a lot of it. Have any of you guys played sports before?
Sports? Oh yeah, most of us play soccer,
Okay, so
or we used to
soccer.
anyway.
Okay, so in soccer, right? I've never played. I played a little bit, right? But in soccer, I'm guessing, right? A lot of it is you're trying to project what the other team is doing. That's how you kind of can intercept the pass because you can kind of I don't know whether you can read what their body language is doing. Maybe because you know more often it's going to
Right.
go to that person on the right side or whatever, because they're the primary ball handler. Whatever the case may be, is sometimes you can kind of predict what the other person is going to do, and this game is a lot like that. If you can kind of read the game,
Right.
sometimes you can catch them in rotation because you know where they're going. Sometimes you can kind of get ahead of them a couple steps and be in a good position to pick off the back line. Do you guys know what gating is? Have you heard of that expression for this game?
I have not.
Okay, this will be good for Lloyd. I don't know if you're still listening, Lloyd, but you can tell him if he's not. But basically, gating is a scenario where you guys are like in a bush, like just waiting, and you're waiting for a specific target to pass by before you engage. So, for example,
Right. Okay. So
usually the tank will pass first. If they don't check the bush, they just keep going, right? So maybe the bruiser will be next, but then eventually the squishier targets will come up, and sometimes some of them will be late in rotation, and you
right.
can get like maybe the second or last person, and you just gank him, and then all of a sudden you got a 5v4 just by making a kill,
Right.
right? But gating is just like letting everyone pass through until it's that optimum blow up target, and you just jump on them. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
But that takes
So
patience. Takes a lot of patience.
I don't think that's many years away
But
for
that,
us.
yeah, but that's
Frano, we do that sometimes, but
yeah,
not a lot. Not a lot.
yeah, yeah. But
It's pretty rare.
but yeah, no, that's like a thing, and that's ways you can swing in the division. Because if you think about the for okay, so for a team fight, like what do you think are probably the 2 most important targets that need to be at the team fight for the group to survive?
Well, we need somebody with crowd control, I would assume. Are
Okay.
we talking about who we have?
Yeah, like if you think about just five, like say you're going to a team fight, all 5 of you guys. In order
Right.
for the team fight to actually like have a shot, who are the 2 most important people that you need for that team fight?
Well, we need a healer, I would assume.
Okay.
You know what? You should just tell me because I'm going to be wrong here.
Okay. No, you're on the right page. So ideally, you said a crowd control person, which is usually the tank, right? Usually.
Yeah.
So whoever your tank player who's taking that slot, that character, whatever, if you have the tank there and you have the healer there, ideally your team fight will go better. Ideally, right? Now the reason it's not just the healing though. What the healer brings a lot of times is the crowd control too,
Yeah.
like the follow up, right? So those two pieces, even though they don't get a lot of like praise and a lot of times they don't make the big kills or do the big damage, those guys hold the team fights together. Now, if you can take one of them out, then their team fight isn't looking so great. Like they might not even want to fight at that point,
Right.
right? So I mean, unless you're like an Uther, the tank's down, he can kind of play both roles. Like he can heal and tank. Right?
We've actually, we've had good success with that, to be honest.
Yeah,
With
yeah. Yeah, so when you think about it, you just got to think of like, okay, we have this on the board, they have that on the board. Do we win this fight straight up? Like if
Right.
like all skill aside, like do we win it? And that's the thing. Like eventually you guys will get better, and a lot of that's just going to be calling your targets out too.
Right. So, like, what does the shot caller do? Do they call just targets, or do they call like go take this camp, or
So
is it both?
yeah, so that's where. Oh, and I didn't even answer that question, so I apologize. So going back to the shot caller question, most teams for the most part just have one shot caller because it's less confusion. It's one person's mind and focus. The problem is you're adhering to whatever their strategy is, for better or for worse, and you have to hope that your shot caller is better than the opposing team's shot caller, right? But that's
Right.
their responsibility, and that's probably the least confusing. Um, Now, ideally, though, depending on the shot caller, maybe they can only shot call some stuff because there's team fight shot calling and there's map camp
Right.
shot
Yeah.
calling. There's like because you know, I mean, maybe it's realistic for someone to be like, okay, I need so and so top lane, so and so mid, so and so bottom. Need this person to get camp. I'm gonna go here. I'm gonna go scout for them, whatever. Right? Then you're doing
Right.
a team fight. Okay, I need two people pushing and three people in objective. Right? Maybe they'll do something like that. But but unless your skill set is there, like you also have to be realistic. Like, does our shot caller even have that awareness to play his character and talk about all this stuff at the same time? So then if he doesn't, that's fine. Then you have to start disseminating responsibilities. Like someone's got to be in charge of camp timings, and that'd be like either I got to get the
Right.
camps, or but someone's got to be like, hey, someone's got to get the camps, or can blah 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 get the camps, or something like that. But
Right.
then you also
Okay.
have to be aware of soak, right? Because soak's huge too. Can't let that go. So which is like getting experience and stuff, right? So um, technically least confusing with one, but it just depends on what you have capable for your group. So moving on to that, what was the other question you just asked that I forgot didn't answer
Uh,
because I was answering the other one?
I think it was shot calling.
Oh,
Like,
focus targets. Focus targets.
yeah.
Okay, so with focus targets, it's kind of weird, and I'll tell you why. So it can start off with with the tank, but if you think about what you have vision for your own character, a lot of times you only can see what's in your radius, right? Depending on how
Yeah.
aware you are. So the thing is if the tank says I want this target, but then the DPS, which is the follow up, which is going to blow up the target, if they're not there, then they got to say something. Like I'm not there, or I don't have my cooldowns, or like I'm not in range. There's got to be some kind of back and forth. So the thing is a lot of times what happens is if the tank is a shot caller, which happens a lot of times, he'll be like, I want this target. Goes in, he dies. Where were you guys?
That sounds familiar.
Right? Because the thing is what's happening is he sees what's on his screen, but he may not be looking at where you guys are on the map, or maybe no one's saying anything. Right? So whose fault is it really? Right? He's doing his job to an extent, but at the same time, he
Yeah.
just might not have the awareness to look at everything, because there's a lot to look at. I mean, if you think about a tank player, I don't know if Lloyd's listening or not, but if you think about a tank player, an ideal tank player is not only trying to create space, he's trying to figure out when to engage, trying to figure out when to defend. He's ideally counting the cooldowns of the enemy targets, like when their ultimates are down, right? And
Wow.
he's trying to think about ultimate
Right.
times to engage. I mean, there's just a lot to think about. It's not as easy as it may seem, and maybe he's only doing like one or two of those, and that's fine. But at the same time, if he's not looking, and I even mentioned looking at the map, like he might just be looking at his screen. He might just see like a juicy target and be like, "I'm going to jump on this," and he says he's going in, which is awesome if he's saying something. But then he might not know you guys are doing camps because no one said they were doing camps,
Right.
right? So you just have to think about all that. You can't assume that everyone's going to see what you're seeing. And that's probably the biggest mistake that a lot of teams fall into right away, is they're just not aware of what's outside of their own computer
Right.
screen. Great question.
All right, makes sense. Okay, sorry.
No, no, I just say great question.
Uh, so what? Probably the easiest to engage, or is I've noticed like we probably do well with taunt variants, an easy one to play with if you play the dive comp and try to get a kill.
I mean,
I would assume.
ideally, I think. Okay, so there's two ways to think about it. I think it's in general what's easiest to play, and then also where you're playing, right? So if you're gonna pull a Varian at our level for the rest of the season,
Right.
I would try to hide it as long as you could, because the thing is, if you pick Varian in round 1 or 2, he can be countered pretty easy, right? Because he's great on engages, but
Right.
he's got no way to disengage very well.
Okay. So that actually brings me to another question. That's a good question for drafting.
Hmm.
That's something we don't often do. Is like try to hide our intentions. So is that something we should be doing here?
Ideally, yeah, but at the same time, it depends too if your hero pools are small, right? Like if you guys, like for example, if one guy has like 2 or 3 characters and 2 of them are banned, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm sure the other team did their homework and are trying to pigeon them hole into that, or just get him on a character he doesn't know how to play at all, right?
Yeah. I've been trying to get our guys to learn kind of a few more to have a little more
Yeah,
options.
I think at this stage, here's the thing, like you can like for example, I've tried to master all of them, but I don't have the time. Like realistically, I
Yeah.
do not have the time to get good at them all. So that means I'm okay at a lot of them, right? Now, ideally in this setting, especially if you have limited time together, it's not going to hurt to know anywhere from like 3 to 5 characters really 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 good. You guys will get pretty far just by doing that.
I want to go top and get Vala though.
Then get Vala.
Right.
Get
Okay.
get Vala and just know of the maps
Yeah.
that she excels at, right? But then you also have
Yeah.
to think about like, okay, what if they ban Tychus, like you guys are running into? Crap, they're banning Tychus. It was my one trick. God damn it! Now what do we do? Now you guys are, you know,
She's doing this camp
Right.
now, guys.
yeah.
Right. Yeah.
They're all up here. Never mind.
Oh, he's actually talking about in the game. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry.
But yeah, so but ideally knowing like or having a good knowledge of like 3 is a little sketch, but teams can get away with it. It's just easier to predict.
Well, I think everybody should. It's good to play every hero so you know how they work as well from the other perspective, right?
I mean, you could also. I mean, there's a lot of stuff out there as far as research. There's a ton of videos that people do in the community.
Yeah.
So
I don't think our guys are going to be willing to do that part.
got it. I was like that too. I learned a lot by just playing, but being submerged into. And here's the thing too. Like I on our team, we have like a Masters player now. He just made Masters this season. Super excited for him. We're gonna like try to make him try to go for CCL just to say he did it, even though he won't get it. But do you guys
Right.
know what CCL is or no?
Nope.
Okay, so HGC, it's when it went away,
Right.
eventually it came back. CCL, I forgot what Community Clash League, I think is what it's called. It's actually had a season. It's kind of replaced it to some degree, but it's not the same um, like money behind it.
Right.
But at the same time, it's like the pro scene now, and that's
Okay.
and they're starting up a second season again. I'd be surprised actually if your captain didn't even know it existed, but it does
Oh,
exist.
okay.
Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah, but it's another pro thing going on again. Um, but where's I going with that again? I always get myself off topic.
I don't remember.
That's okay. I don't remember either apparently. And you're distracted. Sounds like so.
Yeah, I'm a little bit because sorry they were killing us pretty bad.
Oh no.
uh, it's not too bad. So for the drafting, I guess that's a question.
Yeah. So I mean, it just
Like
depends. Like there are going to be some characters that aren't as counterable um, at the beginning, and ideally you want to pick those first, like the ones that don't have as many
l-
counters.
like what, for example? Like what's a good one?
Well, I mean, I only know. Okay, so for example, your tank player, right? I only know
Like
three picks that he did. He
like
mentioned like Mura, Uther, and a noob. Now, Uther in general is a good pick right now. It's very strong because of the stuns. So, and you can also flex him to a tank, to a healer. So, for example, I don't know if you guys knew, whoever your support player is, they could pick Uther, and then they can switch like after everything's picked, to their tank player, as an example.
Right. Okay.
Muradin isn't a bad first pick because he's not, you know what I mean? It's not super predictable. He's just not a super strong tank
Right.
in regards to like peeling or defending his team. So,
Right.
as an example. Now, I don't know what other characters you guys usually play.
I play Phoenix,
Okay.
but I guess they can blind. But
Yeah,
is that
Phoenix susceptible to blinds. Probably want to pick it later. I mean, Varian will destroy Phoenix for sure. Because at level 13 he has like a shield.
yeah,
I
yeah? I
forgot what it's
definitely don't
called.
want to choose him early there.
Yeah, and I don't know if you play solo laner, but Phoenix is actually pretty good in the solo lane too.
I do, and I'm pretty good at it. I'm getting better anyway.
Okay, okay. So the thing is though, is if you run Phoenix as a solo laner and you don't have another front line, then your tank can be essentially naked without any follow up, right? So it'd be
Well,
one front line
yeah,
and like 4 back line.
yeah, I run him as solo laner, but I've started like in the group fights. I've started to go into the back line, like flank essentially, and
Mhm.
it's somewhat. It hasn't worked in the league, but it's worked in the regular Storm League games. Oh god, I made a mistake. This is gonna cost me.
No. Yeah, and then obviously if you get Phoenix early, you can like do stun chains on him too, because if you're stunning him, he's not
Yeah.
going anywhere. Um, what other characters you guys play, or you specifically, I guess?
I play well KT, but I'm not gonna play him anymore. We're not coordinated enough for that. I've learned that.
It's
Uh,
not bad. You mean Fire Mage, KT?
yeah,
Yeah, he's not bad. He's actually not bad at
he's always
ours.
banned. Yeah, he's always being banned. Anyway.
Yeah, because he can. I mean, even our team sometimes we stack, we clump up, and he's good against that. He's good against poke. He's a late game hero though, right?
Yeah.
Because his power spike is like at 16
Yeah,
with
when you get the double flame strike, well, that's usually what I take.
no, if you
Or,
go okay,
or do
so there's a handful of things. For your level 4, you can go for the extended grasp. That's good for level 4. Um,
what's the extended grasp?
it's his E. It makes his E longer so he can reach it further.
Oh, okay.
Also, if you go, I think it's Pyromania at level 7, um, level 10, depending on what you're feeling the other team has, if they have a counter to the Fireball. Will go Fireball, but the Phoenix is actually good for spacing, for
Right.
zoning. And then, let's see, their Ignite at 16 is really good, and it's also coupled good with Flamethrower at level 20. So
Yeah,
basically, you have like super crazy poke, and if your flame hits anybody, then they can.
I know. I always play the flame strike, but it's not as
But
effective.
but you go the double flame strike.
Yeah.
Yeah,
If we have somebody who stuns, or the one that spreads the living bomb instead, is that the one?
Yeah. You go.
Oh, okay.
Let's see here. I'm trying to remember.
I don't know what the third one is. Yeah, the other one is it applies the living bomb to anybody who gets hit.
Yeah. Believe that is. I'm trying to remember what you do for the 13. Okay. So level 7, do the burned flesh one.
Which okay.
That's the one that does percentage damage to maximum health.
Oh yeah, okay.
And then Pyromania at 13, and then Ignite at level 16. And you should just mess around with it, see how you like it. But at
Yeah.
your level, you guys like, if we're just talking Storm League on bronze, you guys are gonna kill with that if it
Right.
actually gets through. I don't know if it gets through at your level though. And then
Um.
and then
Yeah.
do the flamethrower at level 20 for range.
Okay.
Because if you think about how annoying he is with 16 and having bomb spread, he's super more annoying with super long range. Does it make sense?
What about Cassia? We have some good success with her.
Cassie is pretty awesome if she moves around. I mean, anytime you have an auto attacker, it's like you're kind of always doing stutter steps. Do you guys know what that is?
Yeah.
Okay. So, and that's how she thrives because her armor always stays up. But she's like really good. She does a lot of damage. I mean, obviously her counters are like most, just anything with stun. So she can do a lot of sustained damage, which is damage over time if she's hitting her Qs, which is a skill shot. She can be pretty good at finishing targets if the target doesn't move. You get like for example, that might work in a variant comp if you guys have follow up. She's a pretty good overall hero for sure.
Well, the blind, especially against any auto attacker, is so good.
Yeah, it helps. Definitely helps. It's a good character. If you guys already feel pretty confident with her, then just keep it in. She's actually pretty strong
Okay.
still. So yeah, that's a good one. That's actually a good one to lead with too. It's just obviously keep in mind whoever comes up first. Obviously they'll try to pick up counters. So we'll probably, as an example, like we'd throw a lot of stuns on that, just so we don't. She
Right.
doesn't have.
So Uther's a good choice in the draft early.
It can be because you
Uh,
can flex them around.
yeah.
Technically, you can play Uther in an off lane role, like he can be in a double support
Okay.
composition. Usually, when you have double support, you're going to have a hyper carry. So hyper carry is
Right.
just like everyone just putting all of their hopes into one damage character, but then with the thing that they're going to keep that character alive.
Who is that normally?
There's
We usually have Illidan, but the problem is he moves around too much and he's hard to follow in the fight.
yeah, Uther's actually a good pairing with Illidan as well, but it's Uther. I mean, Illidan's a little bit harder now, just because of there's so many characters. He was way awesome back in the day because there wasn't as
Okay.
many characters that could stun him. But I mean, Cassia probably does the same job, if not better, than Illidan. She's not even in your face.
Do you guys ever
Um,
play support, like actual support, like Zarya or Abathur? I never see that. I haven't seen
it
it yet.
happens. It happens. There's some teams that play Medivh. I think when you start getting into Division B and higher, you see the Medivh more often than not. Abba's like really good. Vikings are really good. I know what is it? Artemis. I don't know if you guys have played him yet. They have a good Vikings player, Joe Tug.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
no, we haven't played.
he's depending on the map, of course. Like, but when we played them, we didn't play against them, but we were ready for it. If he was there, but he's a good Vikings
Okay.
player. Zarya, I did see some Zarya play, but usually they'll pair Zarya with like Garrosh because
Okay.
Zarya gets like a speed boost for her shield, which makes
Yeah.
Garrosh faster,
Oh, yeah, yeah. You can.
right?
Yeah, you can. Oh, that's a good
Yeah,
idea.
other combos like they'll do Lucio and Garrosh to give him speed ability. Other combos are like Arthas and Lucio. Um, basically, Lucio's
Oh, yeah.
paired pretty good with tanks that are usually slow, but if they get to you, it's bad news, right?
Right.
So
Does anybody actually play Murky
yeah,
in Stormling?
yeah.
Really?
Well, then Storm League, or do you mean like our league?
In the league thing, yeah.
They do. A lot of times I think the way they approach the game though is more just like I'm just gonna annoy the hell out of you usually, but we do see it from time to time, and sometimes we're aware of it. And some murky players sometimes are just because the thing is, what sucks about playing against a good murky is that if they're good, you have to have someone babysit them the whole game, or you're just gonna
Yeah, he pushes the lane
yeah,
completely
yeah.
so
And
fast.
good murky players will proxy the lane. I don't know. Have you guys heard of that?
No, I don't know what.
So if okay, so there is your fort and your keep, and basically murky players will go between both of those, not in the actual lane like where you usually
Okay,
are,
yeah.
and they'll kind of kill the minions there. So what will happen is that your wave, that lane that he proxied, will crash in and start beating on the towers easier because there's no other minions to defend it. So eventually it's just gonna wait on it, and then the rotations of the maps are faster between the buildings, so they can kind of double soak between like mid and top or something like that, and then they can kind of f up the lanes.
Oh,
So
interesting.
yeah, it's annoying, but it happens. But yeah, I mean, there's some. Again, you're not going to see these like one trick ponies until you get higher up in the
Right.
divisions, but there are some. There's a lot of them actually. They're super annoying.
How do you deal with Diva? Because we always have trouble. Oh, I shouldn't be telling you this, but we'll be
I saw
banning
you.
her.
I did some scouting before because I'm the primary assigned to
Yeah.
But I
Okay.
did see your banner 6 times already. Well, I mean, yeah, true. If you can't, yeah, if you hate a character and you can't figure it out, yeah, banner. Just do that. That's probably the best advice. And it depends too. Like technically counters to Diva are like Artanis, like on a one-on-one situation. Leo traditionally does pretty good if Leo's hitting all the W's, but if Leo's missing the W's, then it kind of sucks.
Like Artanis
Um,
for swapping, like moving the exploding thingy. Is that what it's for? Or just attacking her?
no, it's just the one-on-one. Like Diva,
Okay.
Diva is good against some characters, and she's good at clearing the lane. She's good at being annoying. But it depends on who she's matched up with the soul laner. So there's some soul laners that can chunk her pretty hard. Like, and there's actually a handful. Like for example, if you play Gazlo, Diva like pretty much destroys Gazlowe, right? But if you play maybe Leo, maybe if you're good at Imperious, even though you're not great at wave clear as Imperious, you can like chunk her pretty hard, right?
Okay.
She's not gonna. She'll do way better against Rag because there's no lockdown against her. But Malthael, ideally, will handle her better than some. Azul will actually do pretty good. W build Sonya will do pretty good against Diva. Um, that
I think in lane it's not too bad. Like we have even as Phoenix, I usually can just keep shooting her repeatedly, and she can't really do anything to
Yeah,
you.
yeah. Like for most bruisers in the soul lane, if you're a ranged character, like even if you're like Raynor, like you can destroy them. The only thing is that you're really susceptible to ganks, so you just have to be aware of people trying to crash on you.
Yeah, I was like more like in a team fight, we often have trouble with her or killing her or killing what's her name, the ice girl, the new one, May.
Mm,
We
yeah.
always have trouble killing her for
Well,
whatever reason.
so yeah, May is. I mean, she's designed that way, but she's also designed to be a distraction. So May's strengths are more engaging, but not defending. So really, if you think about her abilities, she has a W, which is projected, right? It like sits there for a while before it
Right.
goes off. She has a Q, which is a blind, and she has an E, which is a slide. Other than that, she doesn't really have any peel. So she's more of an offensive character and not a defensive character. So advantages that you could have against a Mei tank, as an example, is you could just crash on the back line. Really,
Right.
you just run past the tank. Similar to Joe. Like Joe, kind of like she has predictability. She's I mean, if you can stay out of her W and stay out of her range, you can just dive, like just basically run past her and kill her backline. Now the thing is, if she has a shield though, like that's really her main engage. She doesn't really get a
Right.
good one until like level 10. But the thing is she rather use it to engage than use it to defend, as an example. So it just kind of depends, like and if obviously if your comp is a little split, like you have two characters that dive and three that sit in the back, you guys are gonna have a hard time just synergistic wise.
Yeah. Hmm.
So yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So there's things that can beat Diva, going back to that question, but it just kind of depends on the characters that you're doing. I mean, technically Phoenix, which is in your skill
Mm.
set right now, you could technically solo her. Um, get her really low, get her to use her bomb, and you ideally you want Diva to use the bomb before the objective. Ideally,
Yeah. Ideally, that's unlikely to happen, but yes.
yeah. So great question. Any other questions? Even though you guys are probably playing.
um. I don't know. I don't know if the other guys are listening. If they have any other questions, I've got most of them. I think. I don't. I don't know. This has been pretty good.
Cool,
I've enjoyed it.
cool, cool. Yeah, if you
Yeah.
guys have any questions or whatever, just let me know, and I'd be happy to help.
Yeah. All right.
Out of curiosity, do you guys do scouting? I'm hoping you do.
Yeah, we do. We do.
Okay, so you at
That's
least
one thing we do at least that. Yeah.
okay,
We
good,
go.
good, good,
Yeah.
good. Okay, awesome. Cool. All right. No one has
All right.
questions? All right, you guys have fun. Pleasure to meet you
All right.
guys.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot.
Anytime, guys. You take care.